Our first speaker today is Dr. Todd Margolis, who's an ophthalmologist, but also a distinguished professor. And one of the things that my parents did, my dad was an ophthalmologist. They had the opportunity to work in Africa on remediating diseases, specifically river blindness, back in the 1970s. So I appreciate Dr. Margolis' work in doing this. And one of the biggest areas are medical mistakes, largely diagnostic errors. And I was very interested in this. And he served in one of the most interesting places in the world called Chiang Mai, Thailand. If you've not been there, definitely go see that, because it's just, you can't buy those kinds of experiences. With that, let me introduce you to Dr. Todd Margolis on his very long road to a Fulbright. Dr. Margolis, the podium is.
Thank you very much, Ed. And thank you everyone who's taken a few minutes out to listen. Hopefully this will be educational and informative and entertaining. So I thought that I would start off by, and this is the longest slide we're going to have here, talking about my long road to a Fulbright, because I never thought I was going to be a Fulbright scholar. Back in the 1960s, when I was a teenager, I just wanted to make a difference in the world, but I think everyone did back in the 1960s. And then I ultimately went to Stanford, then moved to UCSF in San Francisco and doing my training. And at that time, I got introduced to the Haight-Ashbury Free Medical Clinic, where the sort of going saying by David Smith, the originator there, was healthcare is a right, not a privilege. And this became very important to me because it sort of hit home. Not long after, the AIDS epidemic hit San Francisco. And I was very involved early on with this before we even know what caused the AIDS epidemic, including the ocular complications, the most severe of which is probably cytomegalovirus retinitis, where people would go blind and then they would die. And I got very into that, even though that wasn't my area of specialty. I was a cornea specialist on the front of the eye. The back of the eyes with CNV effects. So over the years at UCSF, I trained multiple foreign fellows, and it turns out I trained probably about 8 or 9 Thai fellows who went back to practice and make a difference in Thailand. And at one point, one of them said, why don't you come to Thailand and meet Dr. Samsungwan, your kindred spirits. And she was at Chiang Mai University. And the creed that she lives by is cure sometimes, treat often, comfort always. And in the pictures here, this was me back in my Haight-Ashbury days. And this is me many years later with Dr. Samsungwan at Chiang Mai University, probably about 14 years ago. So then 2020 comes and we have a COVID lockdown. Oh, are the slides still up? Hello?
Yes, go ahead. I'm working on it.
Okay.
So you're bringing it back up. Okay, so what I'll tell you is the COVID lockdown came and we weren't allowed to go anywhere. We were at home doing Zoom and trying to figure out how we were going to spend our time. We weren't even in taking care of patients unless they were emergencies. I had been at UCSF most of my career. And then 10 years ago, I moved to Washington University in St. Louis to head up the Department of Ophthalmology. And what ended up happening was during the COVID lockdown, I had already been thinking a lot about education, about thinking about how we train our medical specialists. And I was very concerned that over time, we were teaching facts and not teaching our doctors how to think. And one of the things that I also knew was that in Thailand, where I had had multiple visits and multiple projects with Dr. Samsungwan, that the Thai medical professionals were brilliant and had really good memories and were outstanding surgeons, but they didn't know how to think and they didn't think critically. And basically, Richard Feynman talked about this about his experiences in Brazil many years ago. He was a Nobel laureate, how the Brazilians were just smart, capable, worked hard, but couldn't think. And it was just a different way of approaching things. So I got a chance email at that point from Fulbright saying, we need people for Southeast Asia. We know you've been associated with these folks. Are you interested? And I said, I don't think I'm interested. I'm like 66 years old at the time. Are you sure you want me? And they said, no, go ahead and apply. And here we were in 2022, 2 years later, doing the Fulbright in Thailand. Next slide. And I didn't think the dean was going to let me go because I was running a department, but we are already doing everything by Zoom at that point because we were in shutdown. And so he said, well, if you can do it from Thailand, that's okay. So I would work early in the morning and late in the afternoon, evening, back on Zoom with St. Louis. So my project was critical thinking and diagnostic error. And next slide to sort of get you in the mode. Next slide after that. What is critical thinking? And I just got two definitions here, but one is critical thinking involves asking questions, defining problems, examining evidence, analyzing assumptions and biases, considering other interpretation, tolerating ambiguity, which is really hard for a lot of physicians or people not in the research sciences. Ambiguity and doubt are necessary and even productive part of the critical thinking process. And critical thinkers are skeptical, open-minded, and aware of their own thinking. Next slide. And I knew that the Thais, because I had trained a bunch, were brilliant, but weren't trained to critically think. And this also, amongst other things, leads to diagnostic errors, which are a problem in medicine. 17% of inpatient adverse events are due to diagnostic errors, and diagnostic error rates run between 15 and 50% in ophthalmic subspecialties. So this is important. Next slide. So what did I do? I put together a course on critical thinking and diagnostic error. It had 4 parts that were sort of integrated. It involved didactic lectures, a journal club, case conferences, and oversight of patient care. And the goals were to introduce the concepts of critical thinking and diagnostic error, spend time thinking and writing new lectures for me, establish a Thai exchange program at Washington University. I had one at UCSF. I moved to WashU and it was hard to get it started. And visit prior Thai fellows and my wife's relatives who happened to be Thai while I was in Thailand, because I had 9 fellows I had trained and my wife's family that I'd never met. Next slide. So here we are in Thailand. You can see the hospital, and up above here, you can see the residents in a clinical training session that we were having. All the way over on as I look at it, the right, maybe it's your left. I'm at a meeting. I got invited while I was there to 2 national meetings to speak. And down in the middle, I'm there with my wife, our Thai language teacher, and our 2 children who were 6, 5, and 7 at the time, 6 and 8. And we took Thai classes every day. They split off from us. Next slide. And it turned out that Thailand was in COVID lockdown. And so although I had all these great ideas for what we were going to do with interacting, it turned out at the hospital, we couldn't personally interact. And so almost everything ended up online. And this is the way they communicated. And they used this particular platform for communicating back and forth. And all the lectures, all the communication, almost everything ended up being through this platform and not in person, which was in some ways frustrating, but I think it worked. Next slide. As some of the restrictions got lifted, we did get out. This is Doi Sutep, which is about 3,000 feet up above Chiang Mai. It's a big temple. These were my 2 sort of co-conspirators in Thailand at Chiang Mai University. This is Dr. Napaporn, who is head of the cornea division there. And this is Dr. Samsangwan, who I had this relationship with for 15 to 17 years now, who used to be chair of the department and is now an emeritus faculty member. Next slide. And we did get out and see the sites, and COVID restrictions became lifted, and you can see what a marvelous place this is in all kinds of ways. And the people are wonderful. These are my kids. The whole family went during a rainstorm. It was just phenomenal. Next slide. And so we got to see family. We got to travel. I got to teach. I got to really do a lot of thinking about some of these concepts, and I'll show you what it's led to. And I love it, though, that they're so focused on really taking care of patients. And, you know, here in front of the medical school, it says true success is not in learning, but it's in its application to the benefit of mankind. So you have to apply what you learn. It's just not facts. It's critical thinking and application to real life situations, which just fits in so well with what I was after. Next slide. So what was the aftermath? What did we achieve? I think the course was, next backward slide, somewhat effective for the faculty, which was really, really interesting because they got it, but less so for the learners. And I think it's because in Thailand, the culture there is one of you're taught something and it's an absolute truth and you listen to your elders and you don't question. And that's just the opposite of what I wanted to get people to do, which was to question. And I knew this coming in. And so I knew this could potentially be a problem. But I could never get feedback from the trainees because they were so kind and so nice that all they would say was nice things. And you didn't really know what they were thinking. I had lots of time to think about how to teach some new concepts in the field that were not being taught in ophthalmology, about critical thinking. And a lot of what we get is eminence-based learning versus evidence-based. I did have all my lectures recorded and videoed, and I had hundreds of people attending the courses, and they were distributed through Docuity, and I've had thousands of views for my sets of lectures, which has been great. I never expected that. Aftermath was I had 5 published editorials on critical thinking and diagnostic error in the ophthalmic literature in serious journals. So this really got me thinking about this and how to present it and how to get other people engaged. We've since developed an exchange program at Washington University. 4 Thai medical students and residents have now completed electives there. And I've got 1 Thai retinal specialist who's spending a full year sabbatical at Washington University. So a number of the goals were met. Some of them may not have been. Now, in addition, this was my first sabbatical in my career. I was 67 when I left, and I'd never taken a sabbatical, which was phenomenal. I met my wife's extended family, and I started a diagnostic error study at Washington University, which is going along really interestingly, and it will be published. Next slide. Next slide. It's just a thank you slide. It's got some pretty sunsets in it, and I think we can skip it then, and we can go to questions if that's next on the schedule. But thanks for your attention.
Great. The only problem with this is that you're just going to have to take a virtual applause there, you know. And let's see. I don't see any questions in the chat. Did anybody want to jump in? Unmute yourself and put your video on, since we only have 20 or so. If you'd like to jump in and ask a question directly, go right ahead. Anybody? Okay. I have one, actually 1 or 2 questions. I like the fact that you said that many of your scholars had an emphasis on facts, but not on critical thinking. And as I've worked with some brilliant kids in Malaysia and Singapore, I had one student just crying to me saying, I just listen to what the professor says and that's it. I never get to question them because that would be some kind of insult and stuff. And I said, no, go ahead, insult me. I'm used to it and stuff. How prevalent was that during your experience there?
It was extremely prevalent. And I tried everything I could to sort of break down the barriers of me being the teacher and them being the trainees. Trying to be relaxed and open, but they have trained for so long to behave this way that it's really hard to get them to do anything different. They're so polite and so respectful, and you're the elder.
Doesn't it also have a lot to do with the scope of practice within that setting? I work with Cambodian nurses. I also work with Vietnamese nurses, and I'm working with a university in Vietnam that their nurses graduates are going to take the U.S. licensure exam. It'll be the first nursing program in the country to do so. And in the United States, nursing, it's a very collaborative. Yes, we have our scope of practice, but we're very collaborative in terms of bringing up issues, to the healthcare team and all, and that just doesn't happen in Vietnam or in Cambodia. It's very much of a technical role. So that's and that just it runs counter to the concept of critical, what we think of as critical thinking. And so it's almost like that scope of practice is set up that way. So for us to come in and encourage otherwise, it is a huge challenge.
It very much is, and I knew I was going to run into it going in there, but I wanted to see what I could learn. One of the things I've discovered is that over the past 3 decades, medicine in the United States has become more that way. That they want people with very high scores, very good memories. They don't care if they can think. And it's a problem for the field. And so I'm not only thinking about Thailand, but I'm thinking about how do I take this back and really try to emphasize that we have to go back and emphasize this in our medical curricula here in the United States. If they see it online, it's the truth. Not in a referee journal. If they see it online here in the United States, it's the truth. And if they see it on a list server, it's the truth. And we've become, it's a problem, quite honestly. And what I'm really trying to do is not just battle what's going on in Thailand, because I can't change their system. What I'm really trying to do is come back here to the United States and take up the battle here.
Thank you, Todd, for sharing your experience. My name is Muthuswamy Kumaran. I had a Fulbright in South Korea, pre-COVID era. But I've traveled a lot, especially in South and Southeast Asia. And to me, Thais are the most humbling, amazing people on earth. And you are married to one. And I'm so glad you get to see the cultural part of it and your children as well. It's interesting. I'm part of the Fulbright committee here. And earlier on, when we were discussing about your potential role here, I think I made a comment. It'll be eye-opening to get a ophthalmologist talking to us. And it was really eye-opening. Thank you.
You're very welcome. My wife is Thai American, so she was born in Virginia, and she straddles the line. Her family is all, her parents were born in Thailand, and it's interesting to see in front of everyone else, she'll put on the Thai demeanor. In front of me, she puts on her U.S. demeanor, and I really hear it.
That's exactly what my wife does, and it creates difficulty when she goes back to Malaysia. Have to go back into that, I won't say second-class citizenry, but as a woman, she has to take a more deferential role. By the way, this term is called power distance, the degree to which you adhere to status in a hierarchy. Thailand, Malaysia, South Korea, they all have very high power distance scores. Germany, Israel, and US are the lowest power distances. It took my wife a long time when she worked here in the US to call her boss by his first name. He said, please call me Tommy. Yes, Mr. Simpson.
Yeah, I get, yes, Ajahn.
Right. After a few years, she got used to it. Great. Well, yes. Who else has anybody else have a question? Yes. Glenn.
Yeah, I love this topic of critical thinking, and I'm just wondering, there's such a strong move towards AI now, and what do you think about this intersection between growing use of AI and whether that's going to help people think more critically in their profession?
Wow, it's a great question. I'm not sure of the answer. I worry a bit because AI can produce stuff that's already known and the conclusion's already drawn, but it doesn't give you original thought. And part of critical thinking isn't just analyzing and thinking about it, but then coming to new conclusions and moving forward, which we do in the basic sciences all the time. So we know how to teach that. We just aren't very good at doing it in medicine. And I'm a little worried about AI because I think people are going to think that it's leading to critical thinking. And it's just regurgitation of what's already out there. At least current AI.
Yeah. My son, the lawyer, is the go-to guy on AI as they're looking at the legal consequences of that. And he says, yeah, it's great for summarizing a whole lot of information, but when it draws conclusions, it's very, very full of errors, and you have to go back and check that. So it's in its infancy, and but for our young people that think, oh well, you know, I saw that. This is what the chatbot produced, and especially damaging in medicine if you make those wrong conclusions. That would really.
So I always like asking the question, why? You know, and seeing if they tell me an answer and seeing if they can come up with an explanation for how they got there. It's the Socratic method, you know, and I love it. And unfortunately, we don't do enough of it, at least in medical training.
Turns out a 3,000-year-old procedure still works. That's great.
And you can very easily say, I don't know why, but it still works. And I'm okay with that, but at least you know that I don't know why it works.
Yeah, great. If there are no other questions, I'd like to thank Dr. Margolis for enlightening us. And I like the fact that you have done these exchanges, set up these exchanges between our countries. That's the whole point of the Fulbright, is to exchange students, scholars, now administrators and all. And
I have a question.
yeah, Neil, you have.
No, go ahead, Javed.
Okay, thank you. So for me, I also sometimes use AI or Copilot to extract some direct information. So sometimes it gives you easy way to access to see just or get a hint, not use in your research, not to use in writing your paper, because sometimes even if you use Copilot, it also uses AI, so it does not count exactly what you're looking for, but sometimes it gives you direct link. I want to go this place, so it quickly let you get the way. And I wanted to purchase this thing, America or in my country, so it okay, you can buy from this. So sometimes Google give you many detailed things, but AI tool or Copilot quick to see the things. So I think they're not all bad, but there are many things that that are helpful from the AI. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I don't have a problem with the use of any technology or tool.
Yeah.
You have to understand the limitations. And what I discovered in medicine is there are various things online that are called wiki pages for various fields. In my field, it's iWiki. And people go to it, it becomes the truth. And rather than this is a tool that helps me get in the right direction, and now I have to ask questions and do more. And I think the same is true with AI. As long as people understand the limitations of what they can and cannot get out of it. Because I'm a basic scientist too, I'm a clinician scientist, and I've done basic science. It's great to be able to gather lots of information and get it summarized and read up on it and understand it. And for AI to do that is terrific. I just wouldn't rely on it to come up with any novel thoughts or associations between what's already in the literature.
Neil, you had your hand up. You have a quick question?
It was the exchanges you set up. My question was inspired by that. I set something up like that in Bordeaux, France, between my Colorado School of Mines and here in Colorado and in Bordeaux. And the French side, there was a lot of excitement among the students to come visit the USA, but the opposite was not true. The American students weren't that interested. And I couldn't maintain the balance. And I don't know if you ever have experienced that problem or not.
You know, I'm going to tell you that at Washington University, it's too young to know whether we're going to send people there. And it's going to be tough. But the ones who go at the medical schools are the students, not the residents, not the fellows, because the residents and fellows don't really have time. And if they're going to go, I want them to do something significant. I don't want them to go and do medical tourism. I want them to get engaged. The medical students have more time for that. So I think if we're going to achieve that, and when I was at UCSF, we had a lot of that going on with Thailand. So, I mean, this was just reinventing what we already had. But I think it could be a problem. It depends yeah, I find that students all want to travel. And if you can get them linked it to something academic together with it, you might be able to sell it if they can get the time off.
Great. Thank you all very much. I hate to cut off discussion, but we've allowed the usual half an hour for this. If you do want to share some contacts or information, use that chat box down there, and we'll save that for later. Todd, thank you so much for your work, and hopefully we can cut down on these diagnostic errors. That's the whole purpose. Everybody, give him some props.
Thank you so much.
Good deal. Okay, our second speaker is Neil Sullivan, a professor of mechanical engineering at the Colorado School of Mines, which is in Golden, Colorado. And do you remember about 10 years ago, someone had invented cold fusion in a bottle out in Utah? Well, it was not replicable and it was not sustainable. But here we are a couple of years later, looking at fuel cells to make them efficient, make them sustainable. And when I read Dr. Sullivan's work, I said, yeah, we have to get him on to let us know a little bit about his work and how viable and how sustainable it is. He did his Fulbright at Curtin University, a very prestigious university out of Australia, and I can't wait to hear about it. Dr. Sullivan, the podium is yours.
All right, great. Thanks, Edmund. That's a very nice introduction. It's great to see so many Fulbrighters. I'm delighted to be part of this meeting. And Todd, I want to commend you on all the accomplishments you had in your Fulbright in 4 months. You really got some traction there and got a lot done. My Fulbright ran from January to June of 2023, and I'm still waiting to see how much traction we'll get out of it. I'm impressed with what you've been able to accomplish. Should I be sharing my screen? Is that what I should be doing?
Yes.
Okay.
You should just go down and it should say, I think we've made you co-host or something like that. Claire, what have you arranged?
All right, I think I got it. Oh,
Okay, there we go.
you got it? Well,
Good.
all right, thanks again, everyone. So the title of my Fulbright was Bringing Sustainability to the Extractive Industries of Western Australia. My Fulbright in 7 minutes. I'm a professor of mechanical engineering at the Colorado School of Mines and serve as the director of the Colorado Fuel Cell Center. You see our logo down here in the bottom left, where we advance alternative energies and energy storage technologies. And just a little bit about the School of Mines. Pretty small school in central Colorado, right up against the Rocky Mountains, with 7,000 students. We have a long history in the extractive industries, as you can imagine, with a name like Colorado School of Mines. Since 1874. Over the last 40, 50 years, there's been an emergence of alternative energies work and advanced materials. This is pretty well aligned with the experience at the Western Australia School of Mines at Curtin University. So a lot of parallels between the Colorado and Western Australia School of Mines, and that was one of the things I was trying to emphasize in my Fulbright application and really with the whole experience. And it worked out. I served as the 2023 Fulbright Scholar in Resources and Energy at Curtin University, and enjoyed that in the first half of 2023. All right, so a little bit about the project I was working on. With this long history in the extractive industries, there's a lot of ties to the companies that are engaged in these industries. And so we're trying to work with those long ties, but now in an alternative energy direction. And the mining industries are striving to bring a measure of sustainability to their work. But it's pretty difficult to do, of course. And so we're working on solutions to those challenges. So an example of this, you see a couple of pictures here, but battery-powered electric vehicles. These companies, of course, moving major tons of ore in and out of these mines, and these battery electric vehicles could serve to replace what are currently diesel-fueled haulers that probably contribute a 5% of the overall CO2 footprint on the planet. So these are very major industries. So also working on hydrogen-powered fuel cell haulers. These are demonstration units. So the scientific theme I went with was to utilize all the solar power and renewable power that these companies are developing to store energy in the form of green hydrogen. The green hydrogen can be utilized to turn electrical energy, renewable electrical energy, into long-term chemical energy in the form of green hydrogen. So the goal of my Fulbright was to go to a place where the extractive industries are so, so prevalent, and inform them on the technology and the work that we do at the School of Mines, and try to engage them in that work, and hopefully secure funding to support that green hydrogen research at the School of Mines with the work we do at Mines. So really to create a collaboration in green hydrogen across the different schools of mines, Colorado School of Mines, Western Australia School of Mines, and the extractive industries that are in both countries. So this is kind of how these flow batteries, these electrolyzers work, this energy storage works. We take renewable electricity and good old water and split that water in what's called this electrolyzer. And let's see here. And that produces hydrogen that we can then put on trucks, take anywhere we want to go. And the place where I work, the Colorado Fuel Cell Center, we're right in the middle there. That's the very technology we develop. And so I go to Australia and work with Curtin University and the industries there to, inform them and advance the work. Now, this picture is taken from a document from the government of Western Australia, illustrating their investment in the idea and the technology. Australia really wants to be a leader in green hydrogen. While folks might not be aware of green hydrogen, it's a pretty big deal to reduction of CO2 footprint. And Australia really wants to be a leader. They certainly have a lot of opportunity for renewable electricity, giant sunny place, and a lot of potential to become the green hydrogen supplier, really, of Asia. Here's the company that's trying to do it, Fortescue, the new force in iron ore. Fortescue's $10 billion in profit a year. They're just tremendous resources. There's their chairman there. They spun out a company called Fortescue Future Industries that is trying to bring the sustainability and also, market position on green hydrogen in Asia. This company opened a Colorado Innovation Center, once again, drawing a lot of parallels between efforts in Australia, Western Australia, and the Colorado School of Mines. And this is, part of that Fulbright experience. And so in going to Western Australia, I worked with Curtin University to engage the industries that are there and provide information about the potential for the impact we can have with the technologies that you might see here. This is kind of a complicated drawing, but shows how we are using renewable electricity to turn water on the outside here into hydrogen and store that energy. So it leads to a lot of meetings and discussions with technological leaders, finding out the needs of these companies, how mines could potentially play a role, how mines and Curtin can work together to play a role. A student joined me. I feel badly I left this out of my slide, because a graduate student that I advised joined me in Perth and worked in the laboratories at Curtin to advance the science that we're talking about here. So that was an important that was scientifically empowering, that there's a focused student that can work directly with the students at Curtin. So that was a nice piece of it. My family enjoyed a wonderful time. We also went to Thailand and over much of Australia. My two sons enrolled in the local school. They wear uniforms, have 4 houses. It's kind of like Hogwarts. And that will be the swimming with the whale sharks was like something I'll never forget. So that was a fantastic trip, and I'm very thankful for it. Appreciate your time, and welcome any questions. Excuse me.
Wow, terrific stuff. It's just, I can't help but think we're on the forefront of all of this. Does anybody have a question that they would like to ask Dr. Sullivan before I mention my ones there? Yes, Glenn.
Well, I saw that Destin was there first, so Destin, why don't you ask first there?
Yes, thank you, Dr. Sullivan, for your presentation about green hydrogen. And in fact, I'm doing a master's in environmental engineering science. I have a special interest in the green hydrogen you are talking about. So my question is, I read about green hydrogen, and then I noticed that it can help reduce the greenhouse gas emissions. So what do you think about the use or the applicability of green hydrogen in relation to sustainable housing, since we are addressing climate change impacts?
Yeah. Well, that's a challenging question. Challenging question, challenging application. And one of the largest hangups with the technologies that I'm talking about with renewable hydrogen is just the bottom line cost to produce it. And so what we find, you know, these, take the mining companies that we're talking about, they do things a certain way because it drives down the cost and gets the most competitive price for whatever they are selling. And when you do that with green hydrogen, what you're selling ends up costing a lot more than if you did it the conventional way, for which there is a much larger CO2 footprint. So what does that sustainability, what is the value of that sustainability to whoever is utilizing this, creating the opportunity? You know, that's a difficult question. You know, these are often limited resource communities that will struggle to generate the capital necessary. These, you know, in Western Australia, these companies have just tremendous resources and wealth to bring these ideas to life on the large scale. And that is what they're trying to do. It's pretty impressive to see. Now, how do you do that within the context of sustainability for perhaps the underserved? That's a tough question. Now, Western Australia struggles with that, with the indigenous populations there, and they make a lot of commitments to address it. But the problem persists and, you know, remains a challenge for them. I don't feel like I'm really answering your question. I think you present a difficult one and one that needs more study.
If only we could predict the future, you know. Glenn, you had a question.
Yeah, I'm really interested in this. First of all, I should say that I'm the director of the master's program in sustainable development practice here at the University of Florida. But I am really interested in this issue of hydrogen. And recently, there's been a lot of buzz. I'm sure it's not new for you all in mines, but about the geological, you know, the hydrogen that's available underground. And I have an article here that says that the USGS says there are literally 5 trillion tons of natural hydrogen underground that could be tapped into, that could, you know, be the energy for our economy for centuries. You know, what is your thought on this while all this investment is being made into green hydrogen?
Right, right. Well, I'd say there's more than one answer to the hydrogen supply question. You know, because we have geologic hydrogen, do we not do other forms of green hydrogen? I would say I'd let the markets play that out a little bit themselves. And I think, you know, generating sort of a portfolio, if you can, is what I think is going to probably be most, you know, robust. Now, geological hydrogen does have its own challenges that are not inexpensive and are not small. So, you know, that's still a pretty early stage technology, and it's certainly an exciting time for that technology. But you know, a lot of wait and see approaches to see how much they're going to actually produce. You know, see if they can overcome these technological challenges that it faces. You know, what they're pulling up is not exactly the purest stuff, and needs a lot of cleaning, and cleaning costs a lot of money. And pretty soon, a lot of it comes down to just dollars per, you know, kilogram of hydrogen. You know, how much you're going to pay for that, and then, you know, the monetization of the CO2 footprint, well, it isn't really there in the United States, and the motivation to not pollute is not as overwhelming as perhaps we wished, and so that drives a lot of the responses. But I think, you know, what I'm seeing now is these companies that I was showing, they are walking the walk as well as talking the talk. You know, they are doing some pretty ambitious, big things. They made some big pledges, and so they want to take action to actually meet those pledges. But it's an exciting time in that field.
Great. We have time for one more question. Javid has his hand up, but he ran off there.
Yes, in my online. Oh, see, my wife is asking me give me another box, so maybe our son did not know this box, so can you give him a box also? Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to mute him until he gets back. Oh, there he is. Okay. Okay, Javid, you're up, but you have to unmute yourself. Javid, you have to unmute yourself.
Okay, thanks. Sorry, I got a call from my wife. She's going to receive my son, so she could not speak English. So I go to help her. I am Dr. Javed, a US postdoc in animal sciences. Energy is not my actual research study, but I have general question from SULLIVAN. So there are number of energy resources. They like petrol or diesel, they produce greenhouse effect, and others. So they are going electrical vehicles, or just you say green hydrogen, sometimes wind energy. So what will be the solution of countries, and which will be the cheapest source of energy for them, for transportation and for other ways? Even sometimes they say that this is expensive to use energy of petroleum or this energy, and other times say hydrogen energy, other times say solar energy. So which energy will be the future of all countries? Or it's just we are living on the mercy of companies, they say and we purchase and we change the cars or automobiles. So what do you think, which will be better and economical and does not cause much greenhouse effect?
Yeah. Well, that's you might say a wide-ranging question. One that will not have a small answer. You know, and one that's full of opinion. And my opinion is that the market forces will differ tremendously across these different regions that you're talking about. And you know, to ask countries with limited resources to spend substantially more to do things in a with a small CO2 footprint, that's a tall order to ask. That's a tall ask.
We are in Pakistan, so we have a lot of solar energy, a lot of sunlight. So could you think it will be beneficial for the vehicles to use solar energy for even home and all alternative is compared to the this diesel or petroleum?
Well, certainly solar has the capacity and the low cost targets, and I think there's a lot of optimism around it, and it's making a big impact. So that sort of somewhat market driven now that it's taken off on its own. Now, as it takes over more and more market share, its deficiencies also become more evident. And those deficiencies are, of course, that the sun goes down, and sometimes it's cloudy, and sometimes it's intermittent. And so that intermittency is a real problem for the industry, for the suppliers of electricity to all of us. And so the technologies that I'm talking about, this energy storage technology, can be used to balance that out. That's really one of the strongest selling points of the technology, to make green hydrogen, because it's a stabilizer for that intermittency. And so when we talk about a technology that's going to do it all, I just don't think that there's going to be a technology that does it all. There'll be a suite of technologies that do it all. And some, as it is today, will be more, will have a better CO2 footprint than others. Now, how that plays out in, across such a diverse set of spaces, is something to be seen. Certainly Australia has that potential with the solar generation, and they are going for it in a big way. And that is why they have interest in the things that I'm doing as well in a green hydrogen, because you can use that solar to make the green hydrogen. That's what it's all about. So we'll see how that plays out. Once again, I feel like I'm not really answering your questions as crisply as I wished I was, but that's a complicated question.
Well, we're starting the process. If it works in one place, maybe we can analogize and start doing that others. Again, I hate to cut off discussion. If you have something else you'd like to ask or share, Dr. Sullivan or anyone else, use the chat room. Our third and final speaker for today, very, very interesting. We always want to transform our societies and come up with an idea about using education to transform our societies. What a unique concept over that. We've been trying that for thousands of years, but it takes a coordinated effort. You can't just throw money at it. You have to have dedicated leadership. And when I read ESTEFANY's work in Colombia, I said, we have to have her on, because it looks like she has the commitment, and this could really help lift people out of what we call the low education loop. Low education, low wages, high income disparities and stuff. So let me introduce to you ESTEFANY GÜECHÁ SÁNCHEZ. She's a visiting scholar from Colombia, on her talk about sustainable social transformation by using valuable educational opportunities. ESTEFANY, the podium is yours. Con mucho gusto.
Thank you so much, Dr. Edmund Kellerman, for organizing this. Before starting, I want to thank my professors, Dr. Kumaran, for nominating me for this space. I see also Glenn Galloway, he's the director of my master's degree in US. My friends, my Fulbright friends who are here connected, my MDP friends, my boyfriend is here, my family, even friends from Colombia are joining. So I'm really grateful to see you here. And please let me know if you can see my screen.
There we go.
Yes.
Okay. So for some reason, it's not allowing me to click. Okay, here. So this is the story of a journey. And this journey I'm gonna talk about, you have been a really important part as part of my journey. So thank you for all the ones that are here. I'm gonna talk about accessing to opportunities as a key process of unlocking human potential. To start, I would like to ask you, what do you think these 4 people have in common? You can write it in the chat, in the comments.
They all accomplished a lot in their lives.
Yes. All of them are or were very clear about their life purpose and face many challenges and limitations for sure. But today, I'm speaking as a master's student from a prestigious university in the USA. But my journey to become a Fulbright scholar encompassed many entire details of a story that I believe that is the most authentic and powerful thing that each one of us has, our stories. So our stories can stunted or be nourished by obstacles along the way. A big one for me was epilepsy, which left me with paralysis in half of my body when I was little. I had to relearn how to walk, how to talk, how to eat, basic things. The doctors say that I could not be a normal person anymore since I will have learning problems and many other limitations. But my parents didn't believe the doctors, and I persevered. But here is a dynamic that actually Professor Glenn, who is also here, he asked us to make this exercise in class. So the name of this is the River of Life. So in really quick way, I'm gonna take you with me in this journey from Colombia to be here now a Fulbrighter. So I was born in a small town in Colombia. I have indigenous roots. That's why my last name, GÜECHÁ, translates warrior in Muisca. I graduated from a public school in a rural area of Colombia. I served in the army. Many people are surprised for that when I say that. I was a professional racing skater for 10 years, and all these factors are part of this story. When I finished high school, I faced inequality, realizing that I couldn't go to university because my family didn't have the money. This is a reality for so many people in Colombia. But thanks to the state exam that in Colombia is ICFES, I won an academic excellence scholarship at the best university of my career in Bogota, located in Bogota. So I have to move to the capital. I learned how cruel inequality is, and I understood that to build a Colombia in peace, we had to start by providing opportunities. So in 2017, I co-founded the NGO Cerros de Cambio because I wanted to be the hero that I would have liked to have when I was a child. I continue to work towards my vision of a more inclusive world through education. I learned English and French thanks to a scholarship in Canada. There, I was part of 3 projects in Greenpeace. I was Erasmus scholar in Turkey, but now you have to say Turkey, in the Middle East Technical University. I helped Syrian refugees to become social entrepreneurs when I was working in a social innovation center in Ankara. I learned from people that I admire a lot that when you take care of your purpose, then it's your purpose that will take care of you. I also was a wildlife fellow. I was in Washington, D.C. There, as I suppose, a foundation, this foundation, that is also working on education. Now I'm a Fulbright scholar at the University of Florida. Here I am studying a master's degree in sustainable development practice. That's the MDP. When I say MDP, is that. And I also work in the university as an academic success coach. So I have experienced so many difficulties because I didn't born in a rich family. I didn't know the languages that the university were asking me to know. But you know, all the related things that are connected of growing up in a constant violence or insecurity of a country at war. Everybody knows, like, Colombia just recently signed the peace agreement and we're still in that transition, but we were born in a country at war. So given that, you have 2 options. That's like my next slide. To see it as a reason or as an excuse. I decided to see it as a motivation because I realized that blaming the government, feeling like a victim or complaining about everything was not going to change anything. That's why I create my NGO, Cerros de Cambio, that translates Hills of Change, and we address different problems. Some of them, poverty. In Colombia, according to OECD, we require 11 generations for somebody to overcome poverty. Approximately 3 out of every 10 Colombian young people between 18 and 29 years old do not study or work. We have a huge inequality. We're the most unequal country in all Latin America after, like, besides Brazil. Youth unemployment exceeds 60% of the working age population. And lack of quality education, access, I want to emphasize here, access is the problem, because even more than 100 million in scholarship, US dollars, are lost each academic year because they are not claimed. So there are opportunities, but the problem is the access. That's why we create our NGO with these 3 pillars. entrepreneurship of triple impact, quality education, and interculturality. It's been more than 7 years. We founded Cerros de Cambio in 2017. And what we do is to transform communities who are in vulnerable conditions into sustainable ones. We are addressing 4 SDGs. Number 4, quality education. Number 5, gender equality. Number 10, reduce inequality. And 17, partnership to reach all the goals. So our methodology, we call it Sustainable Social Transformation Model, has 3 stages. The first one is to train, because there is this big gap. If you are coming from a really vulnerable community in vulnerable conditions, the gap is huge to have access to those opportunities. So the first step is to train. The second one is to offer the guidance. And the final and the most important, and that's why here in the slide is really big, is to connect. So we connect them with opportunities, scholarships, grants, valuable events, internships, jobs. And the reason why we believe in our methodology is that we generate skills, knowledge, and capacities that are installed in the communities and remain in the long term. Our impact, here are just some key numbers. So we have 17 partners nationally and internationally. We have given more than 50 scholarships. We have benefited more than 200 students with our workshops and scholarships. We have more than 7 years of experience, and we have all these have been possible for the help and support of more than 300 volunteers from 30 countries. Here, I want to share a success case because Brandon Santoya, was one of our first social hero. Social hero is a scholarship we create from scratch with international cooperation, with a study without borders in Austria. Now this logo is in German. And we decided, okay, if the gap is too big and they are not getting access to this really high demanding like Fulbright, Erasmus, a really challenging scholarship, let's create a scholarship that they can really have access. So we are not asking for perfect grades. We are not asking for an international exam. We're not expecting them to be the first and the best student of the class. We want a social leader who is making a real impact in their communities. So in the case of Brandon, he creates musical instruments with garbage, and he dreamed about studying music. So with Social Hero, he's now studying in the university of his dreams. We have more social heroes, but I wanted to bring this testimonial. You can scan this QR code. I cannot put the video because time is short, but this story is really beautiful because now he's teaching music and culture to the children of this rural area of Bogota, in the south of Bogota, that is really poor. And more of them are dreaming about accessing to higher education. So this is the call to action for you to join us, because we believe young people are not only the future, they are the present, and we need you to believe in them, to see them, not the other way around. More futures can be transformed if more heroes join this unstoppable movement. Be part of the change, sponsor a scholarship, be a volunteer, be a mentor, or donate. We have this, and it's a sentence that my boyfriend also like repeats. It's like one day or day one. You are the one who decides. So here I have my LinkedIn in the left, the social media of Cerros de Cambio on the right side, my email. So let's connect. My Fulbright journey is still going. So I would like to invite you to join me in this path where we are learning how to transform this situation with education. Thank you.
Very good. Everybody give her some props there. That's outstanding, outstanding work. I taught nonprofit leadership for many years and ran a nonprofit for many years. How long was it before you really, was able to put this into some kind of clear vision? Was it quick, or did it take you years? Did you make a lot of mistakes?
It took us years. Like we started when we were really young. So we were not clear about what we wanted to do. We have a really big purpose and we want to do something because inequality is a big thing in Colombia. And we want to make a change, but we didn't want from where to start. So we start giving like different classes. We were teachers of the children. We were teaching English. We were connecting them with international volunteers to learn other languages, to close these gaps. So we did so many things, trainings, workshops, classes. And at the end, the conclusion after years, for sure, many mistakes that we did, we learned that the best way to transform the future of a young one is through a scholarship. But the problem was like the ones we were connecting them, and this is really funny, we tried to help Brandon, the one I show in the slide, to get the scholarship of the government of Japan. So the exam is in English and it implies a lot of maths. We prepared him. He was also learning some Japanese as an extra point, but he didn't get the scholarship. But it's because this huge gap. That's why we came out with saying, hey, what about if we create the scholarship with the terms, thinking in the profiles that of the population we are working with, because there are many opportunities, but the problem is the people who really need it is having the access for that.
Yeah, very good. Javid has his hand up.
No, I think it's old one. I haven't lowered it. Yeah, anyway, I can comment that I really appreciate your job, what you are looking. So one way or other way, we are also doing, and we should do the great thing, I believe, is humanity, and the person who has humanity is a human being.
Yeah, I like the fact that it's very simple to understand. Connect, teach, and guide. I can't tell how many people have tried to explain their mission to me as an NGO or as a nonprofit, and somewhere along the line I get confused. Dr. Margolis has raised his hand.
Yeah, Todd. Todd is fine. It doesn't have to be doctor. This is amazing what you've done. I'm really impressed. It's not easy, and clearly you just have this drive. My question is this: there's a lot of people in need out there. How do you decide who you're going to give the help to? And is it just based on need or the likelihood that they'll be successful with what you give them?
There are two criteria, and thank you, Todd, for the question. Two criteria, like for sure, the need is one, but also as the Social Hero Scholarship, we ask them to present a project. So in the application for the scholarship, they need to present the idea, or could be a project that is already ongoing, and to explain how, in parallel, when they are studying, and for sure the project has to be connected with what they're going to be studying in the university, and what are going to be the results of each semester. So the renewal of the support is by getting those results of getting this spillover effect, multiply the impact because it's like an investment. We believe in you, that you commit to help these other people. And so our two criteria, like need for sure, like they have to have for sure an academic level, but the most important thing is their willingness, their motivation, and capacity to make an impact, transformative impact in their communities.
Very good. Dr. Kumaran has his hand raised.
Estefany, this is Dr. K. Thank you. You spoke from your heart. That was powerful. I am so proud of you, as you know. Could you tell us a little bit about your Fulbright journey? What prompted you to seek a Fulbright? What are the steps that you took to secure the Fulbright, and how did you choose UF, MDP, and how is it going so far?
Thank you, Dr. K, for the question. Dr. K is my professor also in the nonprofit minor. So how did I decide I wanted to be a Fulbrighter? Actually, I was, when you are in Latin America, you think that be a Fulbrighter is something that is really, really far away, something that is not possible, because it's only for people who are genius, who have polished books, things like that you think you don't have. So like my message in that sense is, first, you need to believe it's possible. I met a person when I was Erasmus in Turkey. His name is Daniel Ventura, and he was White Liar Scholar, and he also was his a Fulbright too. He's finishing his PhD, or he just finished. And he was sharing his experience with me. And that's why I think these spaces are so valuable, because you start believing that's a possibility also for me. So I applied the previous year before I got the Fulbright scholarship, but they delayed some documents, so I couldn't like comply with all the documentation. That is a lot. So next year I apply again, but I was not really sure like what's gonna happen. You just give it a shot and wait. So I considered that I was thinking I need to keep learning to learn better how to manage my NGO, because nobody teach you that. I studied international relations. So many people told me that I should grow my undergrad because I should better choose like social work, something like that. But I wanted to keep learning about how to lead my NGO, but at the same time, I have been always in this line of sustainable development, the SDGs, the 2030 agenda. So the MVP was a really good match. And I didn't want just to write, because I have this debate between the gap between academia and real, like what is applicable in the real world. So the MVP is actually a sustainable development practice. So the practical component is really important, because it's not only me writing a thesis, it's me going to the field and applying those learnings and transform a reality. So we need to make a field practicum. Actually, I'm gonna go to Colombia to do mine, and it's a way to give back to your country too. So Fulbright is a platform, and I think it's really important for connections. My motivation for Fulbright was to be part of a network from really prestigious, well-known people are part, like the ex-president, the former president of Colombia, Juan Manuel Santos. He was the Peace Nobel Prize. He's also Fulbrighter. The previous mayor of Bogota, the capital of Colombia, was also a Fulbrighter. Now she's in Harvard. So really well-known people in Colombia were in Fulbright before. So it's a really good point to be in your journey if you want to make a difference in the world and like connect these realities in a more developed countries with yours and transform what you want to do. Yeah, like my journey, I didn't reply to that, Dr. K. What is coming? Right now, we are developing with my team and a project that is to do what I just mentioned to you, connecting opportunities with these profiles, but with AI. So we have this really ambitious goal to make a matchmaking between all the opportunities that we have been mapping for years and making that accelerator, because the capacity we have, and also that's connected with the question that TODD did about like, okay, how do you select this population? How you know who you're gonna benefit? We want to benefit more people, and we want to work more than in Colombia. We want to have access to Latin America. So now our dream, and I invite you again, like to connect in LinkedIn, and I will be sharing how we have been advancing, is to accelerate this transformation with tools like AI, because it's something that UF is investing a lot. So yeah, I invite you to be part of my journey. I still don't have all the answers, but I'm in the process.
Great. Well, thank you very much, Estefany. We have come to the end of yet another very